Now, in an era where a single AI prompt can generate a masterpiece and global streaming platforms shape our cultural taste, a critical question emerges. Who truly owns the future of creativity? These aren't just theoretical debates. They're urgent issues affecting livelihoods of millions of artists, musicians, writers and performers. To delve into these questions, we're joined via Zoom by Ribatika, the Executive Director of the South African Cultural Observatory. The Observatory has just announced its major 2025 international conference in Cape Town, focusing on the futures of the creative and sports economies. Ribatika, good to speak to you. Appreciate your time. Now, the theme of your conference is creative and sports economy futures in a world increasingly shaped by global tech platforms in AI. Why is it so critical to have this conversation from a specifically African perspective right now?
Good afternoon, Hugo, and good afternoon to your listeners. Thank you for having me here today. Our conference this year at the DHL Stadium will tackle the big question of the creative economy and sports economy future that's shaping tomorrow's industries, from AI to digital disruptions to cultural corporations and creative resilience. So we're expecting rich debates, data-driven insights, because I think the world is shifting at a relatively fast pace, and how we used to do things in the past and how they are done now has changed immensely. And I think it's important that we start thinking about the kind of future that we want for both these sectors, the sports and the creative economy. And hence we're having this discussion in Cape Town over the next 2 days to shape, to think and collaborate with the industry and stakeholders about the future of these sectors.
So a big focus, Ribatika, obviously is Africa, but the event has over 250 academics, policymakers, creative professionals, government and industry leaders. I'd imagine that these individuals are coming from all over the globe. Is that correct? Or give us an idea of some of those that will be present.
Okay, so we have, for instance, on day one, Dr. Keith Nurse, who comes from Trinidad and Tobago. He's the president of College of Science and Technology and Applied Arts. And he will set the tone for us for the 2 days at the DHL Stadium. And we have speakers such as the UNESCO chair, Avril Joffé. We've got the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture representatives. We've got musicians such as Yoshua Majozis and Mfundo Kaluvas, as well as researchers and practitioners from all across the African continent, from Latin America and Europe. And so together, all of these people will explore the interplay of culture and policy and the innovation that's shaping tomorrow's futures and industries.
Now, the conference aims to centre African voices in a discussion often dominated clearly by the West. What are one or two key African innovations or models in the creative economy that you believe the rest of the world should be learning from?
AI has collapsed time and space, Hugo. And I'll make an example of what's happening within the South African context, and we can then take that into an African context as well as, So, for instance, a visual artist in Gqeberha, which is where the South African Cultural Observatory is based, can now sell NFTs to collectors in Japan, as well as a teenager who's seated in Soweto can now edit a short film that can go viral overnight. I saw it happen yesterday at the discussions we were having at the Nelson Mandela University, where one of the videographers who was using just a small device, and how some of the work that he was capturing yesterday went viral immediately after that. And this happens in different domains of the cultural and creative economy. But then these are the tools that democratize creativity, but at the same time, they can devalue it. You've seen how algorithms, how they copy styles faster than artists can make them. So these are some of the things that we're looking at this conference, and I've just given you a South African context, but this is something I think affects the entire African continent, and it's something that needs deliberation and discussion from everyone who will be at the conference on the 4th and 5th of November.
Would you say AI is the greatest threat to South African creatives, or is it their most powerful tool?
It's both, Hugo. I'm saying it's both because right now we have our creatives, as I've made mention, that are actually using the AI tools to do their work better and faster, and they're able to reach markets that they were not previously able to access without the AI tools. But at the same time, we are faced with challenges of ethics and ownership and fair use at that. So again, this is something that I think will allow us at the conference to explore, to talk about the issues of fair use, to talk about the issues of ownership and ethics, which are quite key. And the South African Cultural Observatory produced a report in 2024 that actually looks at the ethics of the of AI on the creative economy and makes policy recommendations. And we're hoping that we can highlight those and also get inputs and have discussions around those issues, because I think everyone who is in this sector is grappling with the same issue that you're asking me about, whether this is enhancing or is something that the sector is embracing, or whether it's something that's actually putting the sector at a disadvantage.
Well, Nata, you've recently expanded your mandate to include sports, with Dr. Kumala referring to it as the golden economy. Now, beyond the obvious, how does viewing sport as a cultural and creative industry with its own ecosystems in fashion, broadcasting and digital content change how we support and invest in sport?
Hugo, the inclusion of sport is very important. I'm saying this because I think we all know that sport is culture in motion. If you look at when we're celebrating a World Cup victory, for instance, recently we won the World Cup rugby, we won quite a number of trophies. And these are just not sporting moments. It's creative productions that fuel music, that fuel fashion, that fuel advertising, that fuel tourism. And so it's important that we harness this convergence. And also, this also means treating stadiums and festivals and digital platforms as part of one creative ecosystem. It also means that we need to understand that entertainment and identity are now part of our global currency. But we need to be acting now and understanding these things and then ensuring that we do this harnessing correctly.
I want to touch a little bit on the rural economy and township economies in relation to AI. Some of the most creative individuals come out of rural and township communities in South Africa and across the African continent. How do you embrace those individuals, or how do they embrace artificial intelligence when there are several factors such as sometimes no electricity or literal literacy in some of those rural communities where there are very creative individuals that you really do not want to be left by the bandwagon?
Mm-hmm. It's an important question that you are raising, Hugo, because the creative economy is geographically unevenly placed, if that's the right way of putting it. Through our SACO mapping studies, which is one of our flagship reports that we produce every second year, we see that, firstly, this sector contributes 3%, creative economy, that is, contributes 3% towards South Africa's GDP, right? And that 3% is mostly coming from provinces like Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. But then you have provinces like the Eastern Cape and Limpopo, where there is so much talent. However, they lack the digital space that allows them to explore and harness their creativity. So we need to be able to invest in mentoring, in training, and in digital literacy so that anyone who is in the country, whether you're in Makanda in the Eastern Cape, whether in Bulugwane, whether you are in the Northern Cape somewhere, you have access to the same equal digital creative economy space as the rest of the other creatives who are situated in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, and in KwaZulu-Natal.
Well, I appreciate your time. We'll leave that conversation and wish you a successful conference. Unati Lutaba, Executive Director of the South African Cultural Observatory.